You may have heard the name before, but you're going to get to know the person today and so much more. So joining me today is Joseph F. Newman, who is the co-founder and current CEO of the American Basketball Association. Yes, the ABA is still here. I like to say back, but it's never left. So Joe, welcome to Career Chat.
Well, thank you, LaDonna. It's very, very nice to be with you, and very pleased that you've asked me to be on.
Of course, I believe in going to the source, and if I can get the man himself, of course, I'm going to reach out and say, Mr. Joe, please. So I just appreciate you even taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to join us today and give us some insights on being a league owner. With COVID and everything that's going on right now, a lot of people are concerned about basketball and sports in general having a season. And I've been following you and just your consistency and even making sure that the league is success. So before we talk about what's happening today with the league, I wanted to talk about how you got started. Did you play basketball growing up? Were you just a fan? How did you get started? Where did you develop your passion?
Well, basketball was not my real forte, although I had a very long career in sports and played baseball, football, basketball, wrestling, bowling, tennis, track, and also have a black belt in karate. So I always had sports in my background. My dad, in my very early years, was the announcer for the Brooklyn Dodgers before they moved to Los Angeles. So sports has always been in my background, but marketing, advertising, promotion, PR, much what you do is really where I probably excel.
That's awesome. So I'm kind of like the female version of you, in other words, because I've never played, well, the difference is I've never played sports, organized sports. I was the pom-pom and the cheerleader, if that's still considered a sport. And yet, again, with the marketing and promotion piece, I decided to also join your world of sports. So with that being said, I understand that you and Mr. Tinkham founded the ABA in 1999. Well, refounded the ABA in 1999. But can you touch a little bit about the previous ABA that was established in 1967?
Yes, I can, because I was involved with the original ABA in those days. I was the ad agency for the Indiana Pacers when they were in the original ABA, and then the ad agency for the Indiana Pacers after the league merged into the NBA, and 4 ABA teams, the Indiana Pacers, the Jersey Nets, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Denver Nuggets merged into the NBA and really saved the NBA. And then the ABA went dormant 25 or so years later. I happened to be at a McDonald's, and Dick Tinkham walked in and said, "What are you doing now?" I had just sold a chain of radio stations, and I retired in 1983. Then I bought a bunch of radio stations, operated them, and then I retired again. And I said, really not doing much, but I'm looking for something to do. And he said, "Do you want to bring back the ABA?" And I said, back in 2000, I would only bring it back for one reason, and that is that I want to diversify the ownership of the ABA. I did not like the direction of Major League Baseball, the NBA, NFL, National Hockey League, where there was no diversification of ownership other than if you were a Michael Jordan or if you were a Magic Johnson or a Jay-Z or an Usher, you could get a small piece of ownership. But if you wanted full ownership, it was tough. Bob Johnson of BET was able to break that short period of time, but ultimately Michael Jordan took over his team. So I said to Dick, I'll come back if we can diversify the ownership. And from the year 2000 to today, we have become the largest professional sports league in the history of professional sports, all sports. But I'm proud to say that 75% of our owners are either African Americans, Hispanic, Asians, or women. And like yourself, LaDonna, we have over 35 women owners. and most of the leadership in the ABA is Black ownership, and so they make up my division chairman, my regional chairman, and we've shown that diversity does work, that people of all races, colors, creeds, and genders can work together in a positive way. And during this period with so much social unrest and so much divisiveness and and really polarizing races and genders, we've proven in the ABA that we are what the USA and what the US should and could be.
You know, it's so funny. I'm sitting here saying, are you in my notes? Because when you had mentioned about diversity, I was going to ask you about, your perspective on what's going on today. And you just kind of touched on that. Is there anything else you wanted to expand on that part, or did you want to just go ahead and move forward?
Well, diversity today, and I have commented in the daily MI memos that I write, is that I believe that there needs to be social change, but from the very earliest days, my parents were deeply involved in the civil rights movement before it was popular in the 40s and the 50s and in the 60s. And I've always seen that the greatest problem was one of education, was one of opportunity, was one of inclusion, and probably more than anything else was economic empowerment, the ability that money really makes things happen, and that if you could get an even playing field and give people good opportunities and good education, then a lot of the social problems would disappear.
You had the ad agencies, you had the radio stations. Have you ever had, just before you got into league ownership, have you ever owned a team yourself? Just try.
Yes, I did, LaDonna. The first 2 years, we had an NBA ABA agreement that we would have a minimum of 8 teams. And 1 week before the start of the first season, one of the teams dropped out. And as a result, I had to do a team in order to meet my agreement with the NBA. So 1 week before the season started in 2000, I formed a team and used all the techniques that I recommend to various people. I averaged for 20 games, 1,500 to 3,500 people a game, and generated each of the 2 years $650,000 in revenue in each of the 2 years. Never spent one penny on advertising, just using the techniques that I try to provide every day to all of the various teams.
Wow, that's awesome. You said 650,000. That was a lot of coins back then in like 2000. So
Yes.
that was awesome and amazing. So have you ever had any other kind of jobs? I know you said you did advertising, marketing. I'm just trying to like retrace the career path to go from ad agency, radio stations to league ownership, because nowadays we may have a young person who may be interested not only just in playing sports, but also possibly in ownership. They see the Mark Cubans and other people that they may, look up to because they're also on the forefront. So what are some other jobs that Joe Newman may have had? Let's just get to know you for a quick second.
Well, basically, when I got out of college, I went to work for IBM World Trade in New York, and I was a writer, a technical writer for the early IBM computers, IBM typewriters, and IBM time clocks. And so I wrote engineering memos, but I worked for World Trade. So what I wrote had to be basically translated into 85 different languages. So I had to be able to write clearly with no idioms, no colloquialisms, so that it could be translated into different languages, because they were engineering memos without a loss of understanding. From there, I went on TV and hosted television show and sold a television show called The House Detective in my early career. This after I got out, after I left IBM, went into the Army, got out of the Army. I then was a host of a television show, and my wife and I also hosted Dining Out with Connie and Joe, No Holds Barred, which was a very controversial um, program that we tackled tough subjects, and did that. I also was a account executive for a television station and sold advertising on TV. I owned a chain of fast food restaurants. I was a KFC owner, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and also Hollywood restaurants, and have a background in owned my own marketing school called the Professional Marketing Institute, and sales trained about 10,000 people with a concept called People First Selling, and owned coffee shops and other things like that. But primarily, I'm a marketer and a sales trainer.
You know, just listening to you, Joe, I've known you for about 5.5 years, and I didn't even know you did all of that. So my mouth was sitting here just in awe, just hearing, you know, first of all about the KFC thing, because you know I like chicken. But I was just saying, you know, to be able to go from college, the military, to now owning, well, CEO of a league that has over 150 teams worldwide, including Australia, Mexico, Japan, and of course the United States of America. That's amazing, you know. And I just want to applaud you for even your tenacity, because I know it hasn't always been easy. I know there have been bumps and bruises, and if you want to share some of those, that would be great. If not, that's fine as well.
Oh, I don't see things as bumps or bruises. I know that life's not perfect and everybody faces problems, but you don't really worry about your problems. You worry about just constantly working hard. As you know, I created an equation called S equals E plus DGU, success equals effort plus don't give up. And I've always used that through my lifetime. And so I don't worry about things not working or failure. I always think in terms of you always have to try, and don't worry about failing. The biggest failure is not making the effort at all.
You know, Joe, with the success equals effort plus don't give up, I use that every day. I try to apply it since I've gotten it from you. I borrowed it from you. And I have to say that it has motivated me to do something every day. And just being even a woman in sports, a woman and minority in sports, it has helped me, it sustained me, because there are days you want to give up. You know, I've had someone, I don't think I've ever shared this with you, that told me I need to give up basketball, take my shoes off and stay in the kitchen where I belong. And so just getting that type of negativity, sometimes, you know, it can kind of play on your persona and your mindset. But I've been able to just, you know, I'll get them in my memo from Joe Newman. It's like, you know, here's some positivity, or I hope you're having a great day. So I just want to say thank you for that too. So even though we don't know, well, I don't always respond, I do read it. And it does give a lot of valuable information that I kind of use as a marketing Bible. So I thank you for that part too.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad to be able to do it, because it is great to have people like you as part of the ABA, because when I originally said to Dick at the McDonald's, this is what the vision I have, it came true. And the success of the ABA is not necessarily Joe Newman. The success of the ABA is that we are some of its parts, and you are part of the ABA. And any success the league has is the parts that make up the ABA. So to me, having the LaDonna Smiths and the Joyce Pattersons and the Marsha Blounts and all of these other wonderful women owners that I have, and also the great diversity that I have, is just really a testimony, not to me, but that I was right, to the people that do it.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that. So I just want to go ahead and say again, thank you for even sharing your career path with us. But before we go, if someone wants to become an owner of a team, or I don't want to say set up a league, because I think that the ABA is the best league out there. I've seen people try to go and start other leagues and things, and they've collapsed. They've had no sustainability. One, because they didn't have the vision like you did. Number two, because they didn't have the right intentions and motives. And three, they just didn't have the know-how, like the marketing and they don't do the research and development that it takes to really be able to have a foundation in this business, in this organization. So if someone wanted to get an ABA team, or, et cetera, what could they do? How would you direct them to do that?
Well, obviously, LaDonna, I'd like them to go to the website, abaliveaction.com, abaliveaction.com. When I started, the first franchises or market reservations were $75,000, and quickly I got the 7 teams that did it. But I realized when I was doing that I was excluding the very people that I wanted to include, that so many of the people really had a love and a desire to own a professional basketball team and did not have the money to be able to do it. That bothered me in the very earliest days. And I looked at it and I said, I'm excluding people that really want to have a team. So I consistently, as the league grew, lowered and lowered and lowered the market reservation form, because I also was concerned that people that did not have a great deal of money could lose a lot of money and jeopardize their families, jeopardize their jobs, and create stress and tension where something was supposed to be fun and exciting. So I dropped through the years the market reservation from the very start from $75,000 to $2,500. And so to own an ABA team is a one-time charge of $2,500 now. And then I noticed that even some of the people, and these were coaches and pastors and others, really didn't have that. And so I said to my daughter, I want to set up financing and be able to finance that for people, because I want them to be able to use revenue, not capital. And I don't want them to put themselves in jeopardy and dig a deep hole they can't get out of. So today, if you go to reserve a market, it's a one-time fee, no dues, no assessments, of $2,500. And then my daughter, Susie, sets up a payment plan, and that's the way it works. And it's proven successful. Now, we have had teams that have not been successful, but not because the market doesn't work or the concept doesn't work. It's that they would just have a difficult time being successful. They'd have a difficult time being successful in any business. And so I can't make the business successful. I just can provide maximum help. And that's what I do on an everyday 7-day-a-week basis or 5-day-a-week basis, as you know. And a lot of the people use these techniques. One other thing I want to mention in the concept of selling, and that is that a lot of people think selling is doing something to somebody rather than for somebody. And when you think selling is doing something for someone and you give them the right to say yes or no, they will never say yes unless they believe that what you have is worth more than their money and what you have will benefit them. So you just present it, giving them the respect to say yes, the respect to say no, but just present it. And if they say yes, then they believe that what you have is worth more than what they have. And that's how you become an ABA team owner.
That's awesome. And I was going to actually, I'm telling you, Joe, you're in my notes, because I was getting ready to say, what are some of the characteristics or necessities to become an owner outside of the financial investment? Does someone need to have, a good marketing background? Do they need to have a love of basketball? Like, what are some of the qualities to becoming an owner, to being an owner, a successful owner at that?
Well, I think energy, creativity, drive. I think that the biggest problem that most people have that I've experienced is they waste their time. You are so involved in so many things, LaDonna, because you make every day count, you make every hour count, and you work against projections of what you want to accomplish in a day. This conversation that we're having is on your list of things to do. And when the Zoom conference call is over, you can check that off and say, I was successful today, because after not being able to do it a couple of days ago and yesterday and the confusion, you can mark it off and say, I got this done. I wanted to do it. And so I don't expect any of the people that own ABA teams to be brilliant marketers. Some are, with the experience and background you have, but just I have energy and a desire to work, and I will use my hours constructively. And I will always ask for accountability and measurability. I don't defend the indefensible. If I can't get press media coverage, I don't blame it on the press media. I say, I didn't do something right, but I've got to convert the press media. If I am unable to get community support, I don't say my community in Prince George County hates basketball. I just didn't do it right. You don't look to someone else for your shortcomings. You just look at it and say, then I have to do something different. And so same thing holds true with everything I do. I can't blame anyone for anything that doesn't work in my day. I just say, I need to do what I did a little bit better. And at the end of today, like you have your accounts, your things to do list, I have 2:00 Zoom. And when I finish 2:00 Zoom, after this, early this morning, my wife sent me to the bank and to Walgreens to pick up some prescriptions, cross it off. And this afternoon, she says, water the plants. And on my things to do list is water the plants. And I will tell you, if I was so busy all day today, come 11:30 p.m. tonight, I'd be out there watering plants, because I have in this mind that that's what I was going to do today. And if I don't, then I have not completed and had a successful day. Now, once you do that, here's the interesting thing, LaDonna. If you want to have a things to do list, if you make a list of 20 things and you do 18, you've failed. If you do a list of 2 things and you did them both, you've succeeded. When you fail, you go home dejected and you finish the day dejected. So always make a list of that which you can accomplish. And then whenever you finish today at 5 or 5:30, you say, I've had a successful day. Hey, great, this is good. And you feel good the whole night because you did what you thought that you wanted to do. But if you were to end up, let's say you and I, because of Zoom, we were unable to have this delightful conversation, psychologically, you would have believed I failed today. Joe Newman would have believed I failed today because I had this on the list. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And you're right on target, because what I do, I may have one long to-do list, right? And just, it's all inclusive of everything that I think I may want to do, like a brainstorm. But then what I'll do is I'll bite that elephant and I'll say, my goal today is to do this many or get this done. And if I, knock out the goal that I got done, then I try to touch on some other ones that I may be able to knock out as well. So with that, like, I even have your 15 keys of success. They're posted on my wall. Okay. So every day, yes, I look at those. I take my calendars and my, any to-do list that I have, and I say, okay, today is Joe Newman, such and such, such and such, such and such, such and such. And then when I give myself time frames, I'm just like, okay, within this time frame, I want to have this amount of stuff done. Not that I'm sitting there overextending myself, but I know my capabilities and I don't limit myself. So I say, I know myself, I know what I can do. And then if I do more, I like pushing myself. And I tell even my interns, every day do something off your to-do list. Even if it's as small as send an email to someone or make a phone call, at least get something done, because that sense of accomplishment, like you were saying, at the end of the day, I can sit back, put my feet up and say, okay, I did this. Even though I have a bad habit of still having my phones and iPads and stuff out there, but I know that I got those goals done. I got those targets done. And so it makes it for even a more effective tomorrow because I'm not feeling overwhelmed. Now, conversely, Joe, if I don't finish today something, I will just carry it over to tomorrow's goals. And so wrap up, the completion of what I wanted to get done today and then move on to the next thing. So I am elated that I'm on the right track just based on your success record and me being able to even, I can't say follow in your footsteps, but put my big toes in your shoes.
Well, you're sweet. You're sweet and kind. In sales training, one of the things I tell young salespeople, LaDonna, is that don't ever have the objective when making a sales presentation of making a sale. Okay, because you will come up a failure more often than you will become successful. So don't have the objective to make a sale. Always have the objective to make a good presentation and respect the person to whom you are selling enough that they can say yes or no. And all you know is you come out of it saying, I wanted to make a good presentation. I did. I'm a success. So even if you make 10 presentations, no sales, all 10 times you're successful because you made a good presentation. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I've always told people in selling is that the reason people give you not to buy something is the reason they should buy it. That's a confusing statement, but generally, you in selling, you can say to a person, you don't want to be a sponsor of my basketball team, do you? Now, you would say to yourself, I would never say that to somebody to go into a Pizza Hut and say, you don't want to sponsor my team, do you? And you might immediately think, boy, that's the worst thing to say. But in 10 seconds, they'll tell you why they don't want to. And so you don't have to cover anything else other than that one objection or two objections. You don't have to go through the history of basketball, the history of the ABA, the history of your team, anything else. They'll tell you in 1 second, I can qualify a person in 2 seconds because that's what I do. You don't want to do this. No, why? They'll tell you why, and all you have then is that one thing to change and show them that the reason they told you they don't want to do it is the reason they want to do it. Yeah. Now that sounds silly, but I would tell you you try to put yourself in a position of success as often as you can, and in a position of failure as limited as you can.
When I'm speaking to someone, especially when I'm making an initial communication, I try to find that relationship piece. How can I relate to them first before I even introduce the product that the team? And just so happened I was at a funeral the other day, and the funeral director who owns a huge funeral corporation was there. And I had tried to reach out to him before. Sometimes you may get the runaround to assistance and all that good stuff. And this particular time, I got to the man himself. And I said, you know what? I said, I've been trying to reach you. And he said, about what? And I said, just about a basketball team. And come to find out, Joe, he plays in the 60 and over league.
Sure.
So without me even having to, give him my elevator pitch, he pulls out his business card and says, here, give me a call. I'll definitely help you. And it's just so simple as finding that relation of me being, you wouldn't know this, but I'm not shy. And so I'm just the kind that's, I'm going to come in your face and say, hey, I tried to reach you. How come you didn't call me back? But I always tell people that I try to find a reason for you to remember me, not to forget me. So even if I'm not putting in about the team at that moment, you're going to remember a conversation or a joke or something silly. So you go, oh yeah, that's that crazy girl, LaDonna. So when I do introduce it, I've already had the door open because we've developed a relationship. It's not me just trying to get a check from you or trying to get a credit card from you. And so I think that's very important that people miss that niche. Don't go into sales, like you said, just trying to make a sale. Make a relationship, because that's how you get that ongoing check. You won't just be a one-time investment.
You are so right. If you go out, just go into the mall and say, what do you do for a living? Mm-hmm. A person might say, I sell real estate. Mm-hmm. Another person might say, I sell advertising. Another person might say, I sell insurance. And you would look at each of the three and say, you don't sell real estate, you don't sell insurance, and you don't sell advertising. You sell people insurance, people real estate, people advertising. So you have to put people first. And I will tell you, LaDonna, if you ever were to tape or record a sales conversation, if you say me or my more than you say you or your, the chances are you won't make a sale, because the
Absolutely.
person to whom you're selling is more interested in what they are doing and what they are thinking than they are of what you have. And then also it's important to remember that anything that you can show or they can read or do a video, you don't want to say, let them read the brochure, let them look at a video. So what you want to talk about is the one thing they want to talk about, themselves.
Absolutely.
That's it. Do you see what I mean? So they don't want facts and information dumps and, we have 3,000 people in stands and we have this, we have that. They're really not interested in all that pattern. They just want to know, is this a trustworthy person? And what is it? I always say to people, what is it you would like to accomplish? I mean, I'd say to the funeral director, if you had a great day today, what would today be a great day? It wouldn't be, I hope more people die in
Right.
Prince George County. What you would say, a great day today is if I get a call that I can present my funeral home, and I can give these people the peace and the love and the respect that they deserve at a very vulnerable time, at a very difficult time in their lives. So I want to make them know that they've come to the right person who understands what's going on inside of them. The death is death, and and whatever the cause is, I understand what's going on inside of you, and you come to us, and we will take care of all of those things. That's what he's dealing with. He's dealing with people, not a coffin, or not an urn, or not flowers, or not a chapel. He's talking to people that are under tremendous stress, tremendous difficult time in their lives, and you look them right in the eye and say, thank you for coming here today. I am honored that you've come here today in a time of need. And I want to let you know that I will do everything that I can to make this as easy as possible. They don't, whether they can form a wood coffin or a gold coffin doesn't matter. Do you see what I mean? It's just, and so when you deal with people, and it's the way, I have 175 teams, and people say, Joe, how do you handle 175 teams? I said, I don't handle them. I handle 175 ones, just one. Everybody, I've had somebody's, Tuan Washington has been calling me. That's who's been ringing on the phone. I have a habit that I only will deal with one person at a time. And because Tuan called, doesn't mean that I disrespect you by interrupting a conversation to say, hold on a minute, I've got somebody on the other line. Not my style. But my style is the person with whom you are speaking considers you at that particular time to be the most important person in his or her life. Show them the same respect. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And sometimes what I'll do also is I like to do indirect marketing. So I'll walk around, especially if I know there's going to be some people that like sports. I'll walk in with the red, white, and blue ball that we play with. Okay. And that ball, people just want to touch it because it joggles something in their memory where they've seen it before, whether it's with the Harlem Globetrotters, with the ABA, they've seen that ball before. And sometimes they just like it because it's pretty. So they say. But that right there becomes an introduction piece for me to say, oh, have you heard of the ABA? And so some of my, the younger generations, they're like, what? American Bar Association? I'm like, no. So that allows me to educate them. But then those who may have grown up during the ABA eras, they get reconnected to their childhood and their youth. So then what happens is it becomes an infotainment piece where now with like the funeral director, it's not just oh, she's trying to get money from me. Now it's, wow, it takes them someplace mentally. And I always like to tell people, let me get you a maximum exposure for a minimum investment once we get to that point. So the first part, again, is relationship building, or is an introduction, relationship building, and then how can I help you? What can I do for you? Even if it is just taking you back to that childhood memory, that's something that may last longer than a check for $100.
You're right. Let me tell you a little something that will be fun for you too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
You walked into the funeral director, and it turns out that he had played basketball, right?
He still plays. He still plays in the
Okay.
league. 60 and
All
over.
right.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Now, when you are 5 feet or 6 feet away from him, when you are holding the ABA basketball, it's your ball.
Right.
Throw it to him. Don't hand it to him.
Yep.
Throw it to him and make him catch it. And when you're talking to him, he holds the basketball, not you.
Yep.
Okay. Just and you cannot imagine the number of times I'll walk into somebody and I'll throw them the ball. And even if they can't catch it, okay, and they get it, when they're holding the ABA basketball, you formed a link.
Yep.
It is, and it gets to be you and your business. What would make your day great? Always what would make your day great, and then I will do whatever I can to make your day great. And if I am able to do that, it also benefits me. See, the benefit is him.
Yeah.
He has a difficult situation because they advertise with little ads. Sometimes they do a lot of social media in funeral homes. I'm just happen to be, we're speaking about that particular one, but they also, name awareness is extremely important to them. And subsequently, there are things that you can do that can be beneficial to a funeral home. And during a period, I hate to say, with COVID-19, there's a lot to that. And so you're very on target. There are a lot of people I speak with that don't have the savvy you have and the understanding you have. And so, I really don't need to give you advice or lecture. You understand where I'm coming from, and that's why you're successful and a good owner. And we appreciate having you in the league.
I appreciate you, Joe. But I'm going to tell you something that you told me 5 years ago when I met you over the phone, when we were first discussing the team. You said some words to me. Let me say this. So any success and any accolades that this team gets, I just want you to know that it ties back to you indirectly and directly, because you said some words to me that planted a seed in my persona and my spirit. And you said to me simply, I quote, "I have no doubt in my mind that you can do this," end quote. And that right there propelled me into saying, anytime I felt like giving up or things weren't working or, any challenges, Joe Newman himself said, "You can do this." And I just want to say thank you again, because that has just resonated over all of these years. I've never forgotten that. You can do this. And so everything that I do it not to just make you proud, but to continue your vision and let you know that when you got that vision many years ago, your vision is still coming to fruition. And for little Black girls like me from Prince George's County, you're giving an opportunity that I would have never dreamt or thought of in a million years. And to be able to hear and be able to say to myself, you can do this, it helps so much. So it's going to be passed on for generations to come. So I thank you.
I appreciate that. It's a lot, because and you have done it, and you have been successful, and so it proved me right too, that I know that. And so that's what really makes it exciting. And this year, it's a difficult time, but COVID-19 is enough of a problem, and then the unrest that we've had, social unrest, is difficult. The layoffs and the lack of jobs and income, and particularly affecting a lot of the minorities, more even so than the general market where they've gone back to work and have owned business. This is a difficult time. So it's going to take a really good effort, and hopefully we'll be able to start November 7th. And I've tried to say, look, let things let things happen as they will. We can't determine whether our venues will be open. We can't determine whether there'll be total social distancing or they'll pull back on phase 4, 3, 2, or 1. We can't control that. What we can control is what we do every day and work hard. And if it turns out for any reason that our season is delayed a little bit or other problems, that's something that we'll look at in September. But for now, just keep your blinders on, keep your focus on, and do everything that you can to build your business. But watch your expenses, be extremely careful, don't make any commitments that you can't meet, and I think we'll be all right. And you know, this is really interesting. We interface with about 3,000 people between players, coaches, and owners, LaDonna, and theoretically, 10 to 20% of all people in the country that are tested for COVID-19 are found to have positives. In the ABA, with the 3,000 people we have, unlike the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, and the market in general, we have had only 1 out of 3,000 that have tested positive for COVID-19. Only 1 person. Really interesting, but very early on, we took a hard stand on social distancing, on masks, on washing your hands, and following health guidelines. And I pounded and pounded and pounded. And knock wood, we have our ABA family, you included, our ABA family have been safe. And I don't know whether it's the messages you got every day, but I think the caliber of people that we have in the ABA are good, smart people who took the COVID-19 seriously, and as a result, they haven't exposed themselves, and they haven't exposed their parents and their families, and we are terrifically, and that's doing terrifically in that front. And why I continue on a daily basis say, follow the health guidelines. Don't be assumptive. My wife and I, you know, Connie and I have 6 children. We have 16 grandchildren, and we have 3 great-grandchildren. We don't see our great-grandchildren. We don't see our grandchildren. I saw my son Denny and one of my granddaughters the other day in a social distancing situation out back, and they sat apart from us. They wore masks. We wore masks. It was the first time we've seen any of our kids in 3 months. Right. Connie and I are I have to practice what I preach. So once a week, I go to Target. Once a week, she goes to Kroger's, and we're careful, but we don't want to wake up. We don't want to infect our kids, and we don't want to be infected. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And you know, I always try to find the positive in everything that's going on. And so even with COVID, people are at home, they're on the internet, they're looking for something to do, they're bored. So I kind of took that as, you know, this is the perfect opportunity to either introduce, reintroduce, or expand to people that may or may not have heard about the teams, the league, etc. And what's been happening is, I mean, I post like some of the most bizarre things, you know, professionally bizarre things, right? And it's just to see who's online and what they're looking at and all that kind of things. And people, I think our following has blown up, has exploded, because people now, they have no choice but to be online, or they have no choice but to research and hear about it, or if we do a video clip. So if every team took it, even if it was 1 post a day, just one post a day, just something on social media, I can almost guarantee they're gonna get a new fan or a new supporter, because now you're right in the forefront, the eye gate of the same people that you may have spent a couple $1,000s getting flyers or postcards or, you know, trying to do all this massive media when it's here and it's free. So I absolutely agree with you, what you were saying about using COVID for our benefit, meaning finding the positive and still obeying the laws of the land as far as using wisdom and staying safe.
Exactly. People want their phones to ring. They
Yes.
want to interface. They want to be on social media. They're just, they're not going to completely separate themselves. It's a great opportunity, not only to benefit yourself and the PG Valor and the basketball team, but everybody that you interface with. You are helping to brighten their day and maybe eliminate some of their loneliness or giving them hope. I've told teams that the mere fact that we announced we're going to play is giving hope to people that won't go to the movies. They don't have any high school sports to go to or other things to do. And now the ABA, yay, is coming back. Will we make it on November 7th? Don't know. But you know what we have? We have June, July, August, September to provide people with hope that things will be good. So in itself, it's a really nice message. And I'm glad you get it. It's just a pleasure that I've had the opportunity to be on with you today.
Thank you. And so, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Newman, CEO and co-founder of the American Basketball Association, aka ABA. Thank you, Joe. And you go and get back to those phone calls.
I will. And
And
thank
watering
you.
those plants. And watering those plants. Happy wife, happy life.
Everything is looking really fresh. I mean, here we are, June, whatever it is, and all the flowers are growing, and I just say, yay! And even our tomatoes are growing. You know, we have 3
Awesome.
tomatoes.
That's my
So
favorite. I eat tomatoes like they're apples. I just wash them off and bite right into them. No salt, nothing. I just bite into it. People look at me strangely, but
we have tomatoes every night. We go to a big farmer's market and get tomatoes. That's what we do. Now we're growing them. So anyway, I do have to run, but I'm very honored that you asked me to be on today, and I've really enjoyed this. And I hope some of your podcasters or Zoomists or whatever you call them enjoy it, and always willing to be back if you should ask me.
absolutely. Thank you, Joe.